Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Millennial Project. In this latest Hollywood Sign interview, the plot thickens as we talk to Patti Peck, one of Beachwood Canyon's small business owners. Patti owns the Beachwood Cafe, which is a charming little restaurant located in Beachwood Canyon's historic village. The cafe is a staple in the neighborhood. It has great food, it's a popular brunch spot, and Mayor Garcetti actually came through there not too long ago. Patti herself is also a really interesting person. She's been on Chopped, she is a passionate restaurateur and a top-notch chef. However, the future of Patti's restaurant, along with the future of many other small businesses in Beachwood Canyon's little village, has been thrown into jeopardy because of recent actions taken by the Canyon's most ardently anti-access residents. These are people like Sarah Jane Schwartz, Tony Fish, and Christine O'Brien, who are demanding that the city shut down Hollywood Sign tourism at all costs. So I want to let Patti talk to you a little bit more about what she's dealing with in her own words, but before we get started, Patti did just want me to clarify one thing for viewers. Patti talks a lot about the residents in her interview, and what she wanted me to tell you is that when she says the residents, what she is really talking about is, again, this small group of ardently anti-access residents rather than everyone who lives in Beachwood Canyon. And this is really important because Patti has a ton of great friends and loyal customers in Beachwood Canyon who have been extremely helpful to her in recent months as she has tried to navigate this problem. So I just wanted to clarify that. Also, real quick, remember that you can stay up to date with the Millennial Project's latest Hollywood Sign videos by subscribing to the channel on YouTube. All right, with all that out of the way, let's dive into our fascinating interview with Patti Peck.
So this is the Beachwood Cafe. We're located right underneath the Hollywood sign. I've owned the Beachwood Cafe for 4 years, and during that time, I guess it's been about 6 years that GPSs started to impact this neighborhood very dramatically. And the way that's affected my business is there's no infrastructure here to support the amount of tourism. And so people come here to use the restroom. People come here to get information about the sign, which I don't have per se. So we become the de facto tourist center.
So you're kind of like the visitor center, for
That's
lack
right.
of a better term.
That's right. Yes, that's what I meant to say.
So do people do they normally, does it help the business to have people come in and ask questions? Do they buy coffee, or is it more of kind of like, is it, you know?
No, I wish it did, Andrew, but it's not so much. It mostly creates a long line to use the bathroom, and frankly, my plumbing bills have doubled.
Really? And
Yeah.
what is that, like people clogging the bathroom and stuff?
Yeah.
No way, really?
Yeah. So, and it's not a great sort of, attractive thing to have a line for the bathroom out the door. And
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so you're a business owner
Yeah.
in this area, and there's probably 6 businesses down here, is that about right?
So you don't see most of the businesses. There's the architects building across the street, and there's at least 5-6 businesses in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then there's the Hollywoodland real estate across the street there, which was originally here when the development was built 90 years ago. That was one of the first buildings, and that has at least 5 businesses that I can think of.
Oh,
There's
no way,
yeah,
okay.
there's Penny the hair cutter. There's Lynn Plachette the book dealer.
This is a pretty vibrant.
It is. It's a little
commercial area.
village. It's a little village, and you wouldn't know that all those businesses were there necessarily on the face of things. And then there's the flower store next door, Jennifer. There's the cafe here. There's the antique store. There's the dry cleaner, and there's the market.
Got it.
Right.
How do your interests differ than the people who live up the street as a business owner versus a homeowner?
So the residents of Beachwood Canyon are at odds with the businesses because they want to implement permit parking. And we, the businesses, feel that that is an imposition that will cost us our livelihood, that it will effectively strangle our business. So we can't afford to have that. And why should we? This is public streets. This is a public park. And our tax dollars pay for these streets. But we've had run-ins with their sort of influence on city council, and city council is determined to do something to fix the squeaky wheel and to put a Band-Aid on it. My personal difference as a business owner than with the residents is that I want a long-term solution. I want to get ahead of it. I don't want a Band-Aid. And so I feel like the parking permits is just going to be a Band-Aid. and it's just going to push it farther down the hill. And it's going to affect us in the meantime, and it's going to probably kill some of the businesses here. And that doesn't seem like a thing to take lightly.
So even though you do have some kind of problems with there being tourists who are using the bathroom and not really helping your business, it also would be kind of an overcorrection, so to speak, to like block off the entire street and say you can only park here if you live in Hollywood Hills.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
You're absolutely right.
I was also curious if you could go in a little bit more deeply into like kind of this back and forth that they have with City Hall and again this influence that they wield.
Right. Okay. Well, who lives in this neighborhood is more economically advantaged, shall we say, the type of person. It costs a lot to live here. The houses here are very expensive. They're at least double, sometimes triple the amount of the houses in my neighborhood, for instance. So I live east of here. So this neighborhood has a certain demographic that's feels like they can influence politics, and they do by being the squeaky wheel. And so they're like very vehement, and it's like this crazy vitriol that happens, and it's gotten people against each other, and I hate that, because we're all just trying to live here and do business here, and it seems super unnecessary to me, and people take things way too personally. And of course I don't want parking permits. Of course I want to protect my business. That's my livelihood, and that's the livelihood of 30 people who work here.
Really, 30?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So if they don't have a job, their kids don't eat, essentially, and so I feel very protective of that.
I was curious if you could tell us a little bit about like your background and have you always worked in the restaurant industry, or what's your just briefly your kind of backstory?
My Reader's Digest version of my story is I've always worked in the restaurant industry.
Okay.
I started as a young kid. I guess I was maybe 14. And I came up through a bunch of fancy kitchens, and I learned how to cook that way.
Oh, cool.
And then I started owning restaurants, and that's what I do. And so my whole thing is I like to build community. That's my deal. It's like I think that's what I'm good at. It's not money's not my motivation so much as like this place. They asked me to put in a proposal, and I did because I believed it should be a good place, and it should be the anchor of this community. And that was my motivation.
And it is. I mean, in many ways, this and the market are the two things that everyone talks about.
Right. So this is a little community that's like Mayberry, right? You come up here and you feel it. It's visceral. It's like, what kind of a time bubble am I in? Did you feel that way?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I'm like, this is great.
I know. Everybody feels that way, and it's palpable. And so you come up here, and then like we have people that ride their horses and tie them up at the trees and come in and have dinner. Like that's Mayberry, right? And then people let their kids walk by themselves down to the cafe because it's safe. It's Mayberry, and then Mayberry's being tore apart by a war of, like parking. That's what we're gonna fight about.
And so, what do you think that is like? I've heard a lot of different solutions. So, what for you would be a good solution? Do you think?
Thank you for asking. I think the bigger picture involves a big solution, which is a visitor center where you go there, you leave your car there, you buy a pass to go into the park, you're shuttled into the park, you have infrastructure there, you have bathrooms, you have trash cans, you have souvenirs, whatever it takes. And, you have all the things set up that people need when they travel. And you lead people through, because what's happening is the city should have had this in place a couple of decades ago. I mean, they're leaving all kinds of money on the table by not capitalizing on the enormous amount of tourism that's happening, and there's nowhere for these people to go. And when you're a tourist...
So instead of you guys benefiting as a business from the traffic, now you're shouldering the cost of bathrooms.
That's right.
And the cost of infrastructure.
That's right.
And so I can see that's a big problem. And I've heard that as a refrain, like, why don't we have a visitor center? Why don't we have more involvement from the city? Why has this problem not been mediated?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But we'll see what our current city council is doing. We have been having some issues lately with that whole thing, and they're just trying to band-aid and trying to like grease the squeaky wheels, which are super, super squeaky. So they're like,
Well, how do you think like the people who are the quote-unquote squeaky wheels, how are they getting so much volume and so how are they getting their voices heard so loudly?
Right.
Because it doesn't seem like it's that many people. I'm on the email list, it's like 12 people on there. And
isn't it crazy?
Are like they're like pushing a movement, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was curious, like, what are they doing?
Okay, so they're litigious by nature.
Uh-huh.
They are, like I said, they have a lot of time on their hands. They're single issue politics, and they're relentless. And I don't know. They're just, it's brutal.
I think that their points are highly effective. They're well crafted. The words are the right words. It's public safety, it's danger, it's death, it's liability, it's gridlock. It's like those are the words they're using to describe the situation. I mean, are those words that sound right to you? Does it seem overblown? How do you feel about that?
Well, okay, there is a public safety issue, but that's been addressed by the parking permits going in on weekends and holidays on Upper Beachwood. Because there was an issue when an emergency vehicle couldn't get up there and a lady died. That's real. But down here, it's not an issue because the streets are wider. You can get emergency vehicles in and out. It's an annoyance that people are facing because they can't park on the street because they have made their garage into a studio apartment. Or they have stuff in their garage and they don't want to clean it out.
Some of the people I've talked to who are more in favor of reducing access, if that makes sense.
Sure.
They've said that the community is united around this idea to close Beachwood, to stop people going to the scenic overlook, to expand the parking. They've said everyone agrees. Is that how you feel? Because what I was told earlier today was that they had presented a consensus to City Hall, and City Hall has failed to act.
Oh.
And so I'm curious kind of how you would respond to that.
Well, I don't believe that everybody's united on that. I don't believe that everybody's in consensus with that because I'm not in consensus with that, and I can think of 5 other people right off the top of my head who aren't. I can look across the street and pick out like 2 people that aren't.
So you think this rhetoric with like, we went to every door and everyone signed the petition and every business this, are those kind of inflations of the truth potentially?
It's vitriol. I'm sorry. It's not true.
Please tell me. I mean, that's...
No, I don't believe it, and I don't think it's necessary to be like that.
So in your experience here, you just don't see that consensus around closing the sign?
Correct.
As a restaurant owner, as someone who works in the restaurant business, who's passionate about building community and kind of like, there's something communal about restaurants.
Sure,
right?
absolutely.
Do you think that gives you a different outlook in some respects for this issue in the long run?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I'm a hippie, I want access for the people, and we need more parks for the people. We live in a big, crowded city. It's great to have these parks where you can go out in the nature. We need the nature. We need to go out there, step into the sunshine. So I'm not for limiting any kind of access. And my attitude is there's better ways to handle it than to shut it down.
Well, I understand that. Oh, I think that's all I have.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I should shake your hand.
Yeah, thanks.
Let's try that again. Let's do it one more time.
Okay.
So, thank you. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure chatting with you about
You are delightful. Here,
Thanks.
go like this. This is the cook's
I'm a little
handshake.
sick, so I know that's part of the story now. Is my sickness. Perfect.
All right, I'll wrap it up.
Yeah. Thanks.